Did you know that your pricing really affects your branding? I'll prove it. If I said Walmart, what's the first thing you think of? Cheap option, discount, price slashing, Walmart people. If I said Gucci, what do you think of? High status, expensive, only so many people can afford it, exclusivity. So do you want to be known in your industry as the budget person who you go to if you don't have a whole lot of money and you're looking for a cheap solution? Or do you want to be known as the person that is the best? Because you can't be both. If you're the cheapest, nobody expects you to be the best. If you're the best, nobody expects you to be the cheapest. It has to be congruent with pricing, or subconsciously in your client's mind, they're gonna expect differently. If somebody looks at a price and it's low, the first thing their mind goes to is, what are the reasons why this is so cheap? They look for flaws, they look for mistakes. But if you flip it on its head and something's expensive, what's the first thing that they do in their mind? They start seeking for reasons why it's more expensive or better than the other products. So they're looking for the reasons why it costs more so that they can justify it to themselves. And again, this is all subconscious, so people do this by nature, not because it's intentional. Another example is if I handed you two guitars. I said, this one was $97 and this one was $10,000. You've never heard of either guitar, you've never heard them play. Which one do you automatically assume sounds better without knowing anything else? The $10,000 guitar. So now when I take the $97 guitar and I start playing it, what do you seek for? You're like, oh, it sounds a little tinny. It doesn't sound super clear. And then I start playing the $10,000 guitar. You're automatically like, yeah, see, that sounds a lot cleaner. And you may not even realize you're doing it. And it could be the same exact guitar. But the fact that you understood in the beginning that one was cheaper and one was more expensive, you automatically start seeking for reasons why this is more expensive and this is cheaper. So if you want to get more clients, more customers, how do you create more demand? What are some of the things besides the actual product itself that makes people want something more? Number one, it's when they can't have something. When something is out of reach or they have to work harder for it, it just makes them want it even more. Do you remember growing up when your parents were like, hey, you can't eat that candy. Hey, you can't go to that party. The more that they said that you couldn't have it, the more that you wanted to do it. That's our natural reaction as human beings. If we can't have something, we automatically just want it more, even if it's not logical. Number two is that other people can't have it, so it's less accessible to everybody else, meaning that they can't afford it, they don't have access to it. And so if you can have something that most people can't have, it gives you that feeling of exclusivity. It makes you feel special. And the third thing is having limited amounts of something. When there's only so much of anything, people want it even more. So if you think about something like a holographic Charizard card that was made back in the 90s or whatever, there's only so many of those floating around the market, and that's the reason why they are more expensive. And people will pay insane amounts of money for a piece of paper. It's because there's only a limited amount. So to create more demand in your product and be able to get more clients is scarcity, urgency, and exclusivity. If you work these things into your branding, it's going to create all this pressure behind the dam, meaning that they want into your program, into your product so much, but there's something blocking them, whether it's they can't have it, other people can't have it, or there's just a limited amount. The more pressure that you build behind that, as soon as you let them in, they're gonna do whatever it takes in order to get into that or to buy that product. And luxury brands, they do this all the time. If you think of Rolex, they're notorious for being known that you cannot just walk into a store and be able to buy any watch that you want, even if you had the money. So what does that do? If people have the money and they walk in and they expect, oh, I have the money, I can buy whatever I want, and then you have the person say no to you, you automatically are like, what do you mean no? I have the money, I can pay you. Give it to me. And if the dealer is saying, no, we'll call you back, we'll add you to the list, and we'll call you back when we have something available for you. That creates this pressure behind the dam that just makes you want it even more and even more because you can't have it. And the fact that it's not accessible to everybody, meaning that when you get a call back finally from that authorized dealer 3 years later, and they say, hey, we have this watch available for you, you better come grab it before somebody else does. What's the next thing you do? It doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank, it doesn't matter where you're at, you're dropping what you're doing, you're driving straight down there and you're buying that watch that costs way too much money. Not because it's logical, you don't need to tell the time, you have your cell phone. Not because it's a necessity, but at this point, it's being able to get into that club of being like, oh, I own a Rolex. And since you've waited 3 years, it's created all this desire to want it even more. So it's extremely genius what they do. You go into the store, they don't sell you a watch, but they put it on your wrist so that you can actually feel it, wear it, and want it even more. And then they say, we'll put you on the list as soon as we can find one. And then it's just this waiting game. And they don't even have to convince you to like, hey, do you want the watch? This watch is super cool. All they do is say, hey, we have the watch. Do you want it, or is it going to somebody else? And then you automatically take action. And it's really smart because they work off of what they know their audience wants. The audience doesn't want a Rolex for its function. They want it because of status, whether it's for themselves or it's to show others. So how do you do this in your coaching business? Let's say you have a free community where you keep everybody, you nurture everybody, and you give them a ton of value. You also create an upper level paid group where only some people can get into that. You constantly tease the free community and show them how awesome your paid community is. The more that they trust you and the more that they're around in your world and seeing how many people in your paid program are killing it, they're gonna want in even more. So by the time you tell them how much it costs, it doesn't matter as much because they've already built up all this anticipation and desire. So what tier do you want to be known as in your industry? Low, mid, or high? Do you want to be the go-to because you're easily accessible? Do you want to be the one they settle with because they can't afford the best? Or do you want to be the absolute pinnacle in your industry, being known for the best? And the best way to do that is to increase your prices. Because then it's not accessible to everybody, only some people can get in, and that burning desire will make them want it even more. And the fact that it's harder for them to get in creates this burning desire for them to want it even more. So this may all sound great, but you might be thinking like, doesn't this seem like a ripoff to all my clients and everyone I'm trying to help? No, it doesn't, and I'll explain why. There's this one saying that says, the more they pay, the more they pay attention. And I strongly, strongly believe in this because I've been there myself. There's been so many times where I've bought courses, trying to figure out how to make money online, make money off of my music, and I buy a course that's $100, $1,000. I'm not saying that $1,000 is not a substantial amount of money, but it's not enough money for me to uproot my bad habits, change my entire life, overhaul everything, and do exactly what's happening in that course. It's much easier for me to just say in my head, well, let's just take the L. I lost $1,000. I'll make it up with the next paycheck. It's not enough skin in the game. However, the first time I hired a high ticket coach, it was $10,000. And I was like, ready to spend $1,000. I felt like a big shot. I was like, I got $1,000, let's rock. And they were like, it's $10,000. I was like, oh my. Now, this was a lot of money for me at the time. I couldn't afford $10,000. I didn't have it in my bank account. I was making a decision regardless. There's two ways. I either spend $10,000, grow this business, quit my job, or number two, I don't do anything about it and I work a job I hate until I'm 65, too old, and finally retire. Doing nothing about it to me costed more. So I took out a loan, borrowed money from everyone I knew, took out money from my savings, I invested the 10K, and I did every single thing that coach told me to do. And he told me to do a lot of uncomfortable things that I would never do if a $1,000 course would have told me to do the same thing. Why? It's because I had so much on the line that I could not fail and I could not say no to anything. And the fact that I was in that position pushed me to do things outside of my comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. Growth doesn't happen when you're sitting on the couch eating potato chips. Growth happens when you're doing uncomfortable things that you're not used to doing on a day-to-day. And so I want to ask you, what is more of a ripoff? Charging your clients for something cheap, but not having them use it at all and it becomes completely useless, or charging them a lot of money but having them get a complete transformation in their life? If I never invested in that coach and never had that transformation, I would not be here today making this video. I would be working a job. I wouldn't have time to do this type of thing. And so that investment alone completely transformed my life. So is that what you want for your clients? Or do you want them to just buy a course from you and let it die on the hard drive and never use it? I'm not saying you shouldn't give out free information. You have YouTube, you have all the social media, you can still help people out. But this is what I found. If someone doesn't have money, but they are driven, they are going to take your free content and use their time as wisely as possible to be able to do what they can to make their first dollar. Because the people that don't have money tend to have more time, and that's what they need to utilize in order to get the same results. If someone is a complainer, it doesn't matter if it's free or paid, they're not going to do anything with it anyways. But if someone is dead serious about accomplishing a goal, they will pay what is necessary and do what is necessary in order to solve that problem. So selling cheap things never really made any sense to me because of those things I just mentioned. If they're driven and they have a lot of time, they'll use the time and the free information you give them. If they're dead serious, they'll pay anything and they'll do anything. Cheap products is for tire kickers and they're not going to use anything anyways. And the more you charge somebody, the more skin they have in the game. If they don't have any skin in the game, they have nothing on the line, they never invested in anything, they just don't value it as much. I'll give you an example. If you bought some brand new Jordan 1s, off-whites, they were $2,000. What do you do with those shoes? Are you wearing them every day? Are you romping around in the mud with them? No, you're probably brushing them up, whitening them, and just wear them on sunny days. If you bought shoes from Payless for 20 bucks, what are you going to do with them? Are you going to do that same thing? No, you're going to use them every day. You're going to walk around in mud and it's not going to matter because they're your beater shoes. They're both shoes. They both do the same thing, but why do you treat one different than the other? It's because you have more skin in the game, you've paid more, so you value it more. Again, I feel like it's less beneficial and more of a disservice to charge someone a little bit of money, but not have it affect their life at all. I would rather charge them a lot of money, but give them a full overhaul and a transformation. Because when you make someone pay a lot, they're uncomfortable. And if they are uncomfortable, they pay attention. Growth happens outside of our comfort zone. You're doing them a disservice if there's not enough friction and you're charging them too low. I hope this helps. These are my thoughts and opinions on pricing and how it affects your branding. Obviously, everyone has a different view. There's different ways to look about it. All I know is thinking this way has really benefited me and my business. And so I'm okay with thinking this way, even if I'm wrong. If you have a creative coaching business and you want to learn how to get more clients, charge more money for all this, I'm going to leave a link down below so that you can book a call with me. I'd love to jump on and hear more about your situation and see if I can help you create a high ticket package so that you can sell it for at least $3,000, $5,000 per person you enroll. That way you can hit your income goals a lot faster and you can focus on those clients a lot more. I hope you found this valuable. Please subscribe and share this with a friend if you did, and I will see you in the next video.